The village of Ravenwood seemed like a painting brought to life, its picturesque cottages and cobblestone streets nestled within a lush valley bordered by towering pines. It was the kind of place where time appeared to stand still, untouched by modernity. Ethan Carter, a seasoned traveler with an insatiable curiosity for forgotten places, had stumbled upon it by accident, or so it seemed. From the moment he arrived, Ethan felt the weight of something unseen pressing down on the village. The air was heavy with an unspoken tension, the kind that made the villagers glance over their shoulders and speak in hushed tones. At first, he attributed it to their suspicion of outsiders, but soon he realized there was something deeper. Something buried beneath the village's idyllic surface. The first clue came on his second day. While exploring the town square, Ethan noticed an old, crumbling church at the edge of the village. Its windows were boarded up, its steeple leaning precariously, and no one seemed to go near it. When he asked a shopkeeper about it, she paled and shook her head. "It's best you leave that place alone, sir," she said quickly. "There's nothing there but bad memories." Ethan's curiosity only grew. That night, he ventured to the church with a lantern, pushing open the heavy wooden door with a creak that echoed in the silence. Inside, the air was damp and cold, and the faint scent of mildew clung to the stone walls. The pews were covered in dust, but the altar was oddly clean, as if someone had tended to it recently. Behind the altar hung a tapestry depicting a scene that made Ethan's blood run cold. The image was of a circle of hooded figures standing around a glowing orb. At their feet lay a bound figure, his face contorted in terror. Above them loomed a shadowy, inhuman shape, its many eyes watching from the darkness. Ethan backed away, but his foot caught on something. He looked down to see a book, its leather cover cracked with age. Picking it up, he opened it to find a journal written in a meticulous hand. The entries told of a secret order known as the Keepers of the Void, who had once ruled Ravenwood. The journal's author, a man named Elias Greaves, was a scholar who had come to the village decades earlier. Much like Ethan, Greaves had uncovered a dark truth. The Keepers performed ancient rituals to maintain a barrier between their world and a malevolent force they called the Devourer. The glowing orb depicted in the tapestry was no mere symbol. It was the Veilstone, an artifact of immense power that anchored the barrier. But Greaves's journal hinted at something even more troubling. The rituals required a human sacrifice to sustain the barrier, and the villagers had once been complicit. "The Keepers protect us," one entry read, "but at what cost? The price is too high, and I fear their zeal has turned to madness." Ethan shivered, clutching the book tightly. Suddenly, the silence of the church was broken by a faint creak. He turned to see a figure standing in the doorway. It was one of the robed men he had seen lingering at the edge of the village since his arrival. "You shouldn't be here," the man said, his voice low and even. Ethan took a step back. "Who are you? What is this place?" The man didn't answer. Instead, he extended a hand. "Come with me. It's not safe to stay." Reluctantly, Ethan followed him out of the church. The man led him through the forest to a hidden clearing where several others waited. A fire burned at the center, casting long shadows that danced on their solemn faces. "We are the last of the Keepers," the man explained. "You've seen the truth, so you deserve to know the rest." The Keepers told him of Ravenwood's dark history, how their ancestors had discovered the Veilstone centuries ago. Its power had brought prosperity, but the barrier it maintained had come at a cost. Regular sacrifices to appease the Devourer and keep it at bay. Over time, the rituals became more secretive, and the Keepers isolated themselves from the rest of the village. But the villagers rebelled, one of the Keepers said, his voice tinged with bitterness. "They turned on us, destroyed the original sanctum, and hid the Veilstone. They thought they could end the sacrifices and still remain safe." Ethan frowned. And they weren't. The leader nodded gravely. Without the rituals, the barrier weakens. The devourer stirs. And its whispers grow stronger. It calls to the desperate, the broken, turning them into its servants. You've seen the signs, haven't you? The shadows that move on their own? The unease in the air. Ethan's mind raced. He had noticed strange occurrences. The flicker of lanterns without wind. The sudden chills that crept up his spine. The villagers' fear wasn't just of the past. It was of what was coming. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice shaking. "You're an outsider," the leader said. "The villagers won't listen to us, but they might listen to you. The Veil Stone must be found, and the rituals resumed. Or the village, and perhaps the world, will fall." Ethan hesitated, torn between disbelief and the undeniable weight of the keeper's words. The journal in his hand felt heavier than ever. "Where is the Veil Stone?" "No one knows," the leader admitted. "It was hidden after the rebellion, but there are clues, fragments of the past that might lead you to it." Armed with Greaves's journal and the cryptic guidance of the keepers, Ethan returned to the village. Over the following days, he pieced together the fragmented history of Ravenwood, uncovering symbols carved into old buildings, maps hidden in the church's archives, and whispered stories from the oldest villagers. The clues led him deep into the forest to an ancient cave sealed by a heavy stone door. Using the knowledge he had gathered, Ethan deciphered the mechanism to open it. Inside, he found the Veil Stone. Its glow faint but steady. But as he reached for it, a chilling voice echoed in the cavern. "You cannot stop what is already begun." A figure emerged from the shadows, one of the villagers. His eyes black as the void, his movements unnatural. The Devourer's influence had already taken root. Ethan fought to escape the cave, the Veil Stone in his grasp. Back at the clearing, the keepers performed the ritual with grim determination, their chants weaving a barrier of light and shadow. The Devourer's servants screamed and writhed as the barrier pushed them back, sealing the breach once more. When the ritual was complete, the keepers turned to Ethan, their faces wary but resolute. "You've done what we could not," the leader said. "But this is only a reprieve. The Veil Stone must be guarded, and the rituals maintained." Ethan nodded, knowing he could never return to his old life. The tranquility of Ravenwood was an illusion, one that came at a steep cost. As the mist rolled in once more, he realized the burden of its secret was now his to bear.